Welcome back to the Make It Happen podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Moreno. I am a content creator, artist, writer, and most recently, a self-worth coach. I share media in the realm of personal development to inspire and connect us with our most vibrant and authentic selves. These types of conversations about growing, learning, and becoming more whole versions of ourselves are some of my favorites. This is what we talk about here on the podcast, and that's also what's exciting about being able to take this conversation into a personal level through one-on-one coaching. We get really deep into what makes you tick so that you can understand your patterns and desires and start to align your life with the vision of who you want to be. This isn't a quick fix process because we have layers to us. Sometimes we have layers that we don't even realize that we have. But when we begin to dig around and ask ourselves difficult questions, we inevitably discover things about ourselves that can make a big impact on our lives. So if you want to explore new perspectives and gain greater confidence in yourself and in your abilities, self-worth coaching is where it's at. I'll have a link in the show notes to where you can learn more. So we likely have some new faces joining us. I am really excited for anyone who is here from the Dare You to Move podcast who's joining in for Colleen, or because you follow that podcast and want to hear about her story on this episode. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy what you hear. If you want to stay in touch with the podcast, then you can 1, subscribe, or 2, follow us on social media. You can check out the Make It Happen podcast over on Facebook and also on Instagram. I'll have links to both of those on the show notes. So make sure you follow along. That way you can stay up to date with all the new episodes and get them directly sent to you in your podcast player of choice. So how do Colleen and I even know each other? Here's some background info. A while back, I connected with Colleen through Instagram. We run in the same social circles, interest-wise. Both of us are into spirituality, human design, holistic health, and a whole lot more. So she actually invited me to be a guest on her podcast a couple of months back, the Dare You to Move podcast. That's where I shared all about how I woke up to my intuition and what my process has been like coming into myself. I'll just drop that right there and let you go bounce over to the Dare You to Move podcast if you want to catch up on all that. Again, link in the show notes if you want to check it out. If you have not already, I recommend it. In this episode, however, I decided to take less of an interview style as my previous approach to episodes usually was. And instead, this time, Colleen and I are discussing noteworthy lessons and experiences pertaining to our 20s. Colleen is 32 at the time of recording, so she's bringing the perspective of looking back on her 20s and what stands out to her in the realm of how she viewed herself, career, work, and life. I also share nuggets that I've picked up during my 20s, as I am 26 at the moment, regarding coming into my own, coming to terms with my identity, boundaries, and my mindset. I hope you enjoy this shake-up in structure. I had a lot of fun chatting with Colleen, and I think there's something for everyone in this episode. With that, let's welcome Colleen to the Make It Happen podcast. With the rise of non-toxic products in the beauty and skincare industry, it's hard to find what's worth trying. There's one brand that I've been using for over a year now that I have got to tell you guys about. That is Frey Skincare. Their company started with the launch of a specially formulated sunscreen for active lifestyles that won't leave you greasy or break you out. But they've since expanded to a wide range of products, from tinted moisturizers to facial cleansers and oils, a line of body products, and most notably their Frey 123 set, which is the perfect place to start if you're new to their products. I'd also recommend picking up their Detox Me face mask. It has cleansing microbeads made from jojoba oil that are perfect for a light exfoliation without stripping your skin. It also leaves my face feeling so fresh and supple after using it. I love it. Frey's team of dermatological scientists have formulated each product with the rejuvenating benefits of argan oil to hydrate, protect, and exfoliate your skin and leave you glowing or your money back. Plus, as part of their give back mission, for every skincare set that they sell, they plant an argan tree to help replenish the endangered argan forest in Morocco and support the women who harvest the argan oil. To get the glowy skin you've been seeking and a risk-free trial of their famous Frey 123 set, head to freyskincare.com/MelanieM and use the code MelanieM at checkout for a wicked discount. That's freyskincare.com/MelanieM. I know you from the Dare You to Move podcast.
So, which is my podcast.
Yes, that's your podcast. So in a way, we're kind of doing like a mini podcast swap here, because I was on yours not too long ago. So now I'm having you on mine. Yes. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what the Dare You to Move podcast is.
Okay, so yes, my Dare You to Move podcast is about, it started out about being, I was very stuck with my life, and I was like, well, other people have to be stuck with their lives too. So, and I love talking to people and having conversations with people and learning the different types of careers that I have, more so entrepreneurship and just not following the beaten path that we all seem to follow, which we can get into later. So it kind of just started off like that. Now it's becoming really more spiritual. Like, yes, it's still about being stuck and like talking to entrepreneurs and everything, but it's just more spiritual now. And I don't know, that's just the direction it's going and the direction it wants to go into, which I find I love following that, because it's kind of like out of my hands now. And looking at the time, it was 5:55 for me. So there we go.
I mean, exactly what you were saying right now about being a whole different person spiritually. I think it must echo through. It's going to also be what you're showing on your podcast. So it sounds like you're keeping it very close to home in terms of content that you're sharing.
Yeah, it's growing as I'm growing and changing. So
how about you start things off then with the first thing that you have realized in your 20s, or realized about your 20s?
So I'll start off with what I realized in my 20s, when I was actually in my 20s. So I was a very miserable person growing up throughout my life. Angry child, parents got divorced at 10. I bit 3 people in preschool, just very angry. I was a serial dater, just dated everybody because I had a void of loving myself. So that's basically just from 15 on, I was dating a lot. So that, of course, that still happened in my 20s. I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, so I took like a 3-year gap. So 2006 to 2009, a 3-year gap of like, what am I going to do with my life? I was working at a fast food restaurant. I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. And so I just went like to a part-time community college. And then the boyfriend at the time convinced me to go back to college. So I did. So end of 2011, I kind of had this like ping saying, is this really what my life is going to be about? Just working and going to school, getting this career, and that's it. Like, and it's funny looking back on it now, knowing that's like kind of what the matrix, society tells you to do, which now I know and believe is the matrix, but we can get into that later too if you want. So in 2011, which is also funny because obviously 2012 was an awakening period, I guess, like the start of an awakening period, like a spiritual awakening. People were waking up to more things. I decided to study abroad in 2011. So I signed up for 3 courses abroad in 2012 and then a semester abroad in 2013 because I was like, hell no, am I just going to live my life and just go to school? So I needed something more, like I felt like something was missing. So in 2012, I went to Ghana. Now, Ghana is a third world country. I, at that time, was very miserable, complained about everything, always whining, I don't even know, like, looking back on it now, I don't know why I was so miserable, but on that trip, meeting the people of Ghana and just seeing how happy they were and realizing, like, oh, wait a second, they have less material things than I do. Why am I so miserable with my life when I have everything I could possibly want material-wise? So then on that trip, I realized it's not about the material things. Like, I just had, like, that whole summer, it was like during the summer, I just had an awakening to going, oh my God, life is not about material things, and material things aren't going to make you happy. So that is like the one and only lesson I learned while in my 20s. Now, I will say that just because I learned that in my 20s doesn't mean that I like followed that or like continued with that feeling. Of course, you come back home, I think it's probably 6 months to a year later, I was back to being miserable into the way I was. So, you know. But I do think about that time a lot when I'm feeling down or whatever. And I'm like, wait a second. No, life is good. I don't need all these material things. And what was also sweet was you go to schools. I went to schools while I was there, and you give kids like school supplies, and they're so happy to get school supplies. And and they're so happy to meet you. And it was just an amazing experience. And yes, I said I took it with me, and then I did go back to my old ways, but it's kind of like I went back and forth with that, I think, in my 20s for a very long time. But yeah, so that was the one lesson I learned in my 20s.
What do you think the people of Ghana valued? What were the things that they cared about that made the experience stand out to you?
I think it's just being alive and being thankful for being alive and breathing and having your family and friends around. Because they were just always happy no matter what. Like, yeah, I'm sure they like went through hard times, but they were just happy to be alive from what I gathered and was told. So, and I don't know if they're more spiritual than we are or like more, I don't know if they have a religion or anything, but they are just happy. Like the house I stayed in maybe had a couch in the living room. My bed I slept on was like literally a wood bed with like a foam thing in it. Like, so they didn't, at least the family I stayed with didn't really have much, but they were so happy and they're happy to like share their home with you. And it was just, I don't know. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, like how magical that experience was for me and how just realizing that, you know what, I can just be happy by being alive and taking an example from people of another country that I've never experienced that before. So,
I really like that. I think exactly what you were saying. It's like once you experience something, you don't, even though it was very impactful at the time, you don't necessarily just keep that at the front of your brain, and you're still you, and it
mm-hmm.
requires like maintaining that practice or maintaining these reminders about like if you want to shift your mindset, how can you make this more of something that you think about regularly or something you practice regularly so that you don't go back to your old ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bounce to one thing that I'm learning in my 20s. On my list, I have not taking responsibility for other people's emotions and behaviors.
Mm.
So what this means exactly is like just coming to the realization that sometimes people are going through things that have nothing to do with me, and it's kind of hard to it sounds silly, but it's hard to realize that, hey, the world doesn't revolve around me because all you have is your own perspective. And it's a little narrow minded because that's the lens through which you see everything, your own mind and your own eyes. But it's really helpful when I can take a step back and try and get this bird's eye view of a situation and think, well, I don't know everything that was happening here. Like when someone else gets mad at you and you think, what did I do? Did I hurt them? Did I say the wrong thing? But maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe there's stuff going on with their family. Maybe they spilled coffee on their pants earlier. Who knows what? And there's no way to exactly know what is, going on with someone else. And maybe it really doesn't have anything to do with me. Or if it does have something to do with me, then it's also, I think, not my responsibility to like shoulder blame for that unless someone brings it up to me, because I can't just go around carrying possible, you know, weight due to maybe having hurt someone's feelings or maybe doing something wrong. It has to be someone, like, that's the responsibility of each person to bring up, like, hey, this didn't make me feel good. Please don't do this again. Like, if you can't vocalize that, then the people and situations around you aren't going to change. So, kind of taking responsibility for what's mine and letting go of what's not mine. And as we just said, it's a practice, not something that, even though I'm aware of it, it's something I actively try and practice.
You are so much more aware than I was when I was in my 20s.
I'm 26 right now. What were you doing at 26?
God. I'm 32, so what is that? What year was that? 26. I was probably working. Miserably working. Literally just going with the societal flow of miserably working. Like, I literally look back at my 20s and I'm like, yep, all I did was miserably work. After 2 years of every job, I hated it. Yep. Just, I had no awareness like you did at all. I have the awareness now, but I did not in my 20s. Very toxic relationships. Just very toxic person, I guess I was, to myself. So, yeah.
What do you think kind of kicked you out of, or do you still feel like that mindset right now that...
I hit my rock bottom 2 years ago in 2018, where everything like imploded, exploded all around me. I, again, was miserable at a job I hated. I was freaking out about finances. But this was like the most miserable I've ever was in my entire life. Like, I just was like, this isn't working. I don't like my job. What is life? What is this life? Why are we doing this? Are we just meant to like go to school, get in student loan debt, credit card debt too, get a job, get married, have kids, just work your ass off, survive, and then retire and die? That was like the mentality that I had. And I remember in 2018 being like, this cannot be all life is. Like, this just can't be it. Like, no. So I hit my rock bottom and I was basically just punched in the face for the whole year almost. Until I went to this meditation class for a day and it changed my life, because what they said was, I think it was along the lines of like, you deserve happiness. Because it was called The Key to Happiness. So it was about being happy, but being happy with just being who you are and being in the moment, which I was not aware of at the time.
2018 was a difficult year. I don't know if everyone like had, I mean, everyone goes through different experiences, but I look back on 2018 and think that was a shitty year.
And it's funny because, so I listened to a lot of psychics and channelers, and this one woman, Elizabeth April, says that because she was talking in 2018 like she was talking about 2020, if that makes sense. So she was preparing for the 2020, but something like shifted with the collective. So what was supposed to happen in 2019 didn't happen, or 2018-19 didn't happen until this year. So it's like she was preparing for what happened in 2020 back in 2018. So that could explain why it was such a shit show for a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
What do you have next on your list?
Well, I do want to talk about, so I bought a lot of like, so I'm going into like the buying aspect now. I bought a lot of like clothes and like, again, but that was me filling the void. So I was always just like, oh, I need to buy all these clothes to fill the like love I don't have for myself. And I was just like, literally, I still have so many clothes because I haven't gotten rid of them, but that's all I felt happier buying more things. And obviously looking back now going, yeah, that doesn't really make you happy. Even though I knew when I went to Ghana that that's not about buying more things. It's about being alive and breathing. But it just, when you have like that deep of a void inside of you, you just look for anything external to fill it. And I didn't know that at the time, but I definitely, looking back, clothes was a lot. Clothes was just another way of filling the void. And like now I buy like crystals and books and like psychic readings and all this stuff, which again could be filling a void, but I've actually stopped doing all that. But it's just interesting how your mindset shifts from like one drastic buying thing to another. But I don't buy clothes anymore. I have enough anyway, but yeah, I was always buying clothes.
I mean, as a young female, like that's all you want. You just want a
I
huge
know.
wardrobe.
I know.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, when you talk about the shift from one thing to another, even though you're still, I mean, we're never gonna not buy things.
Yeah.
Like we live in a society that has consumer goods, but it sounds like the things that you buy now maybe are more useful for self-development
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
personal growth and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you were to buy clothes or buy material objects now, do you have like how do you know when you're buying something to fill a void? Is it obvious when you're buying something to fill a void? Can you speak to that?
Yes, it's obvious, but it took me a while to realize it. So I would buy a lot of, or purchase a lot of like readings or coaching or like courses or something because I didn't think I had the answers or the power within myself to figure out my own life. And this was literally before COVID. So, like literally, how many months are we in? 10, like what, 8 months now? So I'm not the same person I was even before COVID, and now I realize like I have the power to be who I want to be. I have the power to create what I want in my life. I have the power to, like, I know who I am and what I want, and I don't need anyone to help me with that, I guess. So, like, yes, you can still get the help and everything, but I just feel like this past year I've just been relying on too many people instead of stepping. So I've been giving my power away instead of stepping into my own power. And I became aware of that because I was buying, I mean, I still love crystals and everything. So now I bought a mala and stuff now, but I have to sit on something that I want now for days. Like I can't just, like if it keeps coming back into my head, then I'm like, okay, now I can purchase this because it keeps coming up. So it's not like an impulse buy anymore. It's I have to take a few days to sit with it and see what my feelings are around this reading, crystal, jewelry, or whatever I'm buying. So it's a more inner knowing and listening to myself.
That's cool. I really
Mm-hmm.
like that. I think what you said, just kind of waiting a few days, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I try and do that whenever possible. something that I kind of like get a feeling of whenever I'm buying something and I'm not sure if like I really want it because I need it for if I'm trying to buy something and I think this is going to complete me, it's going to make me feel
Mm-hmm.
better, fill the void, as you said. I think I have a sense of desperation around the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I approach it like kind of maybe it's on sale, like whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, I need to get this now because it's not going to be available.
Mm-hmm.
And having that desperate approach, which I mean, like, who doesn't love a good sale? But sometimes, for whatever it is, it makes you buy something that you might not have bought before. Or even just the mentality of like thinking, oh, I need to take care of this now and buying
Mm-hmm.
something kind of spur of the moment, especially at night. I don't know about you, but like those nighttime purchases, those are not not good ideas because I'm so tired from the end of the day and
Mm,
I'm gonna buy something that doesn't make sense.
I love it. I did buy my mala like an impulse, but I've been thinking about buying a mala for like 6 months, so I just didn't. I was like, it's 20% off. I'm getting it, but
That
yeah,
was in your mind already. Yeah.
yeah, it was. It's been in my mind for a very long time. I just never bought one for some reason. I don't know. I guess the one I needed in my life wasn't available yet.
What kind of stones are on that one?
It is well, the stones are like there's purple and blues and browns in these, and then obviously sandalwood. But because I was looking for more like a grounding one, because I'm Vata, and I'm just always my three bottom chakras just are never in line or never like balanced. So I'm always in my head and I'm lightheaded and dizzy and all this stuff all the time. So it's like I need something to ground me or to help, even like just even if it doesn't help or it's a placebo, I feel like it's helping. So like whatever. It works. If all crystals are placebos, I don't care. I still like them.
I think they have the value we give them. So
Yeah.
if that's the value you give it and it helps you ground, then it's doing
Mm-hmm.
its job.
Yep. And it looks pretty. So.
What I have on my list next is being something I'm learning is doing things because I want to do them and not for other people.
Mm,
As you said, like so so much has happened during the whole coronavirus pandemic and a realization I was having, I mean, slowly over time I've learned so much about myself and this has been one of those things where I didn't realize how strong of a desire I had to impress other people. And if you asked me if I was trying to impress other people, I would have said no. I didn't consciously think that was something I was doing. But I've realized I do want to do work that's valuable. Like when I'm doing something artistic, creative, I want my work to come across as valuable to other people. I want them to see value in it. I mean, back when I was in school, I was getting good grades all the time, and who was I doing that for? I just wanted to bring home my grade sheet and show it to my parents, like, look, here's your A plus student. I didn't always have A pluses. Just, that was the goal. I didn't always have A pluses. Whatever it was, or whatever it is, like, just wanting to seem even like I have everything all together, not showing the parts of me that are unsure and doubtful, the parts of me that take days, months, whatever to make a decision. I only show the end result, like, oh, this is me doing this now, taking action. And it seems so instant, like, here I am doing this, but no one knows that I've actually been thinking about, whatever this is, this project of mine for months, maybe years potentially. And it's because I just care so much about like how it's going to be presented and how other
mm,
people are going to think of this. I mean, the fear of not, I don't know if it's like about being liked exactly, but I mean, I guess being liked plays a role in it, not just impressing others, but being liked. The way I've started to unpack this is to think like there's so much that I'm not gonna do right in someone else's eyes. They might not like something I'm doing, even though I think I'm doing all the right things. I might be getting the good grades and bringing home that report card, but it doesn't mean I'm going to get the smiles and the pats on the back and all this stuff that I want to get. So like not doing something for the reward, not doing something for like what I think is going to make other people happy with me, and doing things, in pursuit of my own happiness and to like satisfy whatever it is I'm craving, because it's a waste of time to try and do things to impress other people.
Mm-hmm. I love your awareness so much. Oh my God. You and this other girl, Michelle, who I interviewed, she's around your age too. Her awareness, she was like the third interview I did a year ago. And my jaw was on the floor because you guys just are so aware. And I'm like, I've only been aware for like a year and a half. So my awareness didn't start till after my Saturn returns, which is after the 20s. Oh,
Michelle Mercado, right?
yeah, I love her.
She's cool. I know her. She's a little bit younger than me, and she impressed me also. Not that, again, age doesn't
It doesn't.
have to mean anything, but I guess I can kind of understand your feeling there. It's just kind of surprising.
Yeah, she blew me away, and you're blowing me away too. Such an awareness. I'm like, well, all right.
Is that something you've ever, like, do you think about that? The way you do things are you doing things for yourself or for other people? These days, there are so many options for online shopping. You can order your shoes online, your groceries, pet supplies, novelty items, adaptogenic herbs, tickets for airline flights, and so much more. The tricky part is when you've loaded up your cart and are ready to check out and you see the price tag. I start second guessing whether or not I want to buy these things. I know I'm not the only one who gets a little carried away with shopping, but more than anything, I just want to know that I'm getting the best deal. That's where Honey comes in. Honey is a web browser plugin that you can install for free to help you score the items you want with maximum savings. If you're shopping on Amazon, you can see the price history, changes that have occurred, and even drop list items, which basically means Honey will keep an eye on the items. So if the price goes down anytime soon, you'll get notified. Outside of Amazon, Honey will automatically scan for coupon codes when you're on a website checkout page. This is truly such a time saver because who can ever keep track of all the possible codes? Honey not only saves you money, but allows you to keep buying the things you love and earn credits each time you make a purchase. If you enjoy a good deal, then Honey is perfect for you. Visit the link in the show notes to join Honey and start saving today.
I'm doing things for myself now. In my 20s, it was all for other people and all external. I had no awareness, really. I wouldn't say I didn't have awareness because I always felt deep down, even as a teenager, that why are we here? Why are we living? Like, I always had these questions. So I guess I was aware. I just maybe pushed them away, or I don't know. But just everything was always external for me. Always. All the time. Just everything. I mean, it still is to an extent. Like, I'm just not going to tell someone to go stay at a crappy job just because you could be all zen on the inside. But if you still have a crappy job, you should try and change it. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm still kind of battling with that part. Because I know it is all internal now, and I'm aware of that now, but I still don't think people should settle. So it's something I'm working through now at 32.
I like that. That's important.
I was in such a fog in my 20s that just looking back now, I just don't. I know what I was doing because I was following the society and following the matrix, and anyone doesn't know what that is, go read Shaman Durek's book. Or like watch YouTube videos or something. Yes, it does get conspiracy theory, but it's just fascinating to me now because I was just kind of living in a fog and just going with emotion in my 20s. And
what was like your mentality then, if you were just going along with what, like, there's a couple of, big things that are like what society pushes. What was something that stands out to you that you were really steadfast in?
Two things. Career. So I was really hell-bent on so I have a master's in environmental policy and management, and I was really hell-bent on getting a job in that. And it's really funny how the universe has pushed me very far away from that now. Um, so I was very focused on that, and everything in my life, my happiness was based on the fact that I still didn't have a job in the environmental field. And another thing that I noticed about society for me is that marriage. I thought in my early 20s I would be married by like 28. No. That did not happen. I've never wanted kids, so that kind of was never really a thing. I think I was always battling, but the marriage thing, I always was like, oh, I'm going to be married in my 20s and be happy and have the white picket fence. And that's just a societal thing that's thrown on you. Yeah, career and marriage.
How do you view marriage now? Like, do you feel the push still right now to like get married?
I do, just because I want to. And it's not, I don't know, I see my like wedding ceremony now as this very earthy, spiritual like entity now, where before it was like getting married in a church and having the normal type reception and just, and now I'm like, I just kind of want to have like a freaking bonfire somewhere and just like celebrate love. Like, it doesn't have to be the normal wedding that everyone thinks it should be. You know what I
I
mean?
like that. Yeah, I like that. Like, we can still value some of these things, like, still
Yeah.
value having a career that brings happiness or getting married to someone, but doing it from like the right mindset. And the right mindset is going to be, it's got to be your mindset, not someone
Mm-hmm.
else's right mindset.
Yeah.
So, like, you've adapted a little bit of what you were like from what you originally thought marriage had to look like.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't help when your family's like, when are you getting married? Blah, da, 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 da. And I'm like, when I want to. Like, I'm not going to just jump into marriage just because it's what we should be doing. If I want to marry someone, it's because I'm in love with them and I'm happy with them.
Yeah, imagine if you just married someone, like one of your ex-boyfriends, just married them to impress your family. Like,
Yeah. We would
what
be
would
divorced. And it's funny because an ex-boyfriend I dated for 5 years, and he never wanted to move in with me. We talked about, like, I was like, "Oh, when are we moving in together?" And then I envisioned marrying him, and we were together for 5 years, and then him and his wife now, they were only together for 1 year when they got married. And obviously it's like Facebook and they look happy, but they're happier than I see a lot of couples, and I'm like, God, imagine if I did get married to that person and it would have been for the wrong reasons of just getting married. I think so many people are in the wrong career because they think they need to. They're married because they think they need to. They have the house because they think they need to, and we don't need any of that. Like, yeah, we're human. We need to survive, quote unquote, but we don't need all this societal stuff that's programmed into our brains since we're children.
I'm going to transition that one into the next thing I had on my list, which is
Mm-hmm.
releasing control of an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I was originally thinking of this as someone who creates content and thinking about how I can hinder myself when I'm trying to think, like, what will this content mean to someone else? Are they going to have X, Y, and Z takeaways? Is this going to be profitable? Is this, like, how is this going to be received? And it's a nice thing. It's probably a good thing to consider, but not have that be the only thing on your mind, because if you're thinking about an outcome, that's 2, 3, 4, many steps away. And what needs to be focused on is like doing your best right now or doing something that brings you happiness right now, being proud of what you're doing right now and what you're making right now,
Mm-hmm.
and not like anticipating an outcome. So, like that, I've been thinking about that in terms of creating content a lot, but that's also something I like your story so much, and that's something I'm now thinking of like in the context of life and not doing things like getting married to someone because you think, hey, this is what other people my age are doing. I see my peers doing this. Marriage
Mm-hmm.
seems to bring them happiness, so maybe I should do that too. And like, not feeling obligated to
Mm.
do something that other people say is going to bring you happiness. Yeah, just not getting so tied to that outcome of whether it's happiness or something else, whatever other emotion might be the outcome, but thinking like if it's happiness that you're seeking, if I'm thinking this is going to make me happy, then how can I bring that happiness into my life right now? Like, what
Mm.
can I do right now without having to take from other people or shift my life? Because I think we as human beings are, as spiritual beings in human bodies,
Mm.
should be able to create our own happiness and like fulfill our own needs in that way. So kind of like just asking myself instead, whenever I'm in these little funks, like asking myself, how can I meet my own needs?
Yeah. To go along with that, it's taking back your power. Because even me now, taking back my power, I still have moments of being a 32-year-old woman feeling guilty that I don't want children.
Oof.
Like all the time. And I'm like, why is this? Because I see people getting married and having children. And I'm like, oh, I'm a woman. I should want this. I should have this strong desire to want my own child. And I don't. And it makes me feel guilty. And I know that's like looking at that outcome that everyone has of having kids. So that's something I'm working through now is I feel like that probably, well, actually, yeah, that did happen in my 20s too, because I kept going back and forth, like, oh, maybe I do want a kid, maybe I don't. And then realizing, no, I really don't want a child and I shouldn't feel guilty about it. And then having family members saying, well, you're selfish for not wanting kids. So there's that too. So it's like,
And what's wrong with being selfish? Like, it's
I
your
know,
life, it's your
I know.
body.
We know this now. Yeah, I know. I just, I don't even know why I'm talking about this, why I started talking about this, but it's just something I've been dealing with lately. It's just been feeling guilty of not wanting children, which is programming, of course.
Yeah, that's a lot of programming. Maybe like, do you have a lot of like friends, family, a lot of people around you with children?
So, my dad is a huge family. He's one of 10, so I have a lot of like cousins and stuff. Not all of, well, actually, most of my older cousins have kids, but I think a lot of it is my aunt who had two miscarriages and saying, like, it's a miracle that women can have children, and if you can have them, you should have them. And I'm like, but I'm not gonna have a kid just because I can. Like, that's not fair to the child. Like, I think that way too many people have kids when they shouldn't. So, yeah. So, yeah, my family definitely, well, they're still in the matrix. They still are just like, go to college, get a career, pop out children, retire, and die. So they're still very in that mentality. It's hard when I'm at family parties. When are you getting married? Why don't you want kids? So it's hard.
What's your mentality around career now? Like, it sounds like you've reassessed that and have a different perspective than when you were in your 20s.
Yeah, my career change, well, wanting my career change, well, I've always wanted a different job, but like wanting to be an entrepreneur changed this year. So I got my Reiki certificate and everything. So I want to have a Reiki business. So I think what made me change was that seeing entrepreneurship has just so much more freedom than a normal 9 to 5. And there's nothing wrong with 9 to 5s. And there are a lot of people who handle them well, but I'm a manifester. So I don't do well in 9 to 5s. Like, I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, I have to like wait to punch out on my lunch and then wait to punch out. And I'm like, I can't do it. It's not really being true to who I am, staying in this career societal trajectory that we've been programmed to believe.
And when you were younger, did you think, like, this is just the way it is?
Yeah, in my 20s, I had that mindset of the career is like everything. And when I was in school to get an environmental job, little did I know that people who graduate now don't really get jobs in their field. It's very slim, unless you're like in the healthcare field. So I kind of go back and forth with this. Like, yeah, I'm grateful I have my bachelor's and my master's, but then at the same time, I feel like was brainwashed and spent way too much money for something that I didn't even get a job in. And I remember last year I was working with a life coach and we were talking about career, like a job change, but in still 9 to 5. And like looking back on it now, even if it was an environmental job, I still would not be happy because that is not who I am and that's not who I'm supposed, like that's not the way I'm supposed to live. Not supposed to, but it just doesn't, even in an environmental job setting, like field, it still feels very suffocating to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas entrepreneurship doesn't feel suffocating to me. It's scary, but it feels more, I feel more free thinking about it. And like interviewing people on my podcast when they have their jobs, I'm just like, oh my God, that sounds so nice. Even though it's hard, it sounds really nice.
I had studied psychology in college and I enjoyed everything I learned. And I mean, they kind of set you up in each class. They talk about like how this is applicable to the future and what sort of careers are in psychology. And so I was thinking, well, I'm going to be in human resources or I'm going to be, I didn't ever want to continue studying psychology. Well, I mean, there was a time when I thought about that, but the thought of going to school for more years was not appealing to me. To actually become a psychologist, like a doctor. Yeah, that wasn't appealing to me. So I was just looking at my options with a BA in psychology, and it's super limited. There's not because psychology is also one of the most pursued majors. So everyone almost seems to have a psychology major degree. I mean, so that also felt weird. Like, I'm supposed to get a career in this field, and what can I do? Everyone has this same degree as me. And for a while, I was like, well, I don't need to get a career exactly in psychology, but like, this is a good bouncing off point, which is what they tell you, like, hey, a degree's a degree, and it's going to help you, step up somewhere else too. But I think I've learned that it's more about skills, whatever skills that you have, and it's not, I mean, education might give you some attention, but whatever skills you have and the experience, even more. If you have experience in a field, that is so much more impactful on a resume than, where you went to school. And how do you get experience? By doing whatever it is you're interested in, like not waiting for someone else's permission, just kind of try and get your foot in, doing things on your own.
You said resume and I cringed. I was like, oh God. I hate that word.
Yeah, I used to spend so much time like going on Google, how to make a perfect resume. What do I need to have on my resume and all that? I mean, things might change. At this time in my life, I don't imagine sending out any more resumes places. I'd like to head in the, in the self-employment direction, as you said.
Yeah.
All right, I'll end on this one then. So the last thing that I have on my list of things I'm learning in my 20s is to be self-supportive. So this one is pertaining to taking care of myself and being responsible, not just for the bills and stuff that everyone says. Like when you're younger, they say, oh, once you're an adult, you have to, pay for your own groceries and whatever. Like not just that stuff, but also I think the stuff that's less talked about is having good habits in place,
Mm-hmm.
and like no one else is going to take care of you. It's your job to take care of you mentally, physically, emotionally. If you treat yourself, if I treat myself like a machine and just wake up in the morning and think like, okay, what do I have to do, and go like start, cleaning, running errands, whatever it is, then I'm just living for the outside world and to do things. And where's the time to nourish myself as a person? In other times, it might have been something that I thought was selfish to
Mm-hmm.
spend time on myself. And that's something I think I'm still trying to work through. If someone comes at me with that, like, hey, you're being really selfish by just spending so much time on yourself. And I've heard it from my family. They're like, oh, you and your long morning routine. Once you have a real job, you aren't going to have time for all that. And it's like, well, this is what's important to me. Whether or not I have a job, that whatever you have in your mind of a job, even if I did, I'd probably want to make time to do what it is I'm doing right now that makes me feel like a happy person and what makes me feel taken care of, whether that's, a warm shower or meal prepping, whatever it is, things that it can be simple things like that, or consuming literature that makes me learn and makes me grow personally, whatever it is, having these practices, spending time on growing myself, I think that's really important, being self
Mm-hmm.
supportive. And like, no one talks about that when you're younger.
Yeah, I will say, see, now that gave me a thought. In my 20s, I didn't do any of this stuff. Nope. I literally school, work, and watch TV. Didn't know what self-care was. Didn't know what I guess, practices or rituals, like morning rituals or evening rituals. Nope, I just binge watched TV. I mean, I did read, but it was all binge watching TV. And now if I don't have like my morning, especially before work, if I don't have a morning ritual, I am not a very happy camper. So. But yeah. And I will agree with you on the selfish thing. It's very, very difficult to kind of deal with. Because you wish that the people that are calling you selfish, you wish that they could only see what it's like to actually take care of themselves and love themselves and do stuff for themselves instead of doing things for everybody else. So, but it definitely hurts when people call you selfish because they're just not aware yet. Like, no, you can take time for yourself and it's okay.
Yeah, they think you're just being really extra, but they
Mm,
fully have the same capabilities.
and they do.
And it requires a lot of effort at first when you're going to start taking that
Mm-hmm.
time away from other people and bringing it back to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's conclude this with some closing questions. I
Ooh,
like
I'm
doing these.
excited. Yay.
So I would like to ask, I don't think I know yours. So what's your sun, rising, and moon sign?
Libra sun, rising Scorpio, and Leo moon.
How
Yes.
did I not know you were a Libra also? Oh my god! How did I not know this? I also have a Leo moon too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we're overlapping in two signs. Oh my god.
It's funny because I overlap with Yoga Girl because her birthday and my birthday are the same day, so and same year, so we're the exact same age. So, but hers is rising Sagittarius, I think. I think mine's Scorpio. It's on my phone. I think that's what I am, but I think hers is Sagittarius. So I'm just like, oh. So it's fascinating, all the astrology.
I'm swooning.
When is your birthday?
Mine's October 1st.
Oh, okay. I'm the
Yeah,
5th, so
the 5th. Okay.
so we're pretty close, except years
Yeah.
apart, but it's okay. Yes.
What are three things that make you feel like your best self? These can be products, routines, anything that you enjoy that makes you feel like you.
Okay. Well, this is actually a tough one. I'm still working on my self-esteem stuff. Being outside in nature. Oh, this is really hard. Just literally being in the present moment. Because I know I'm not hard on myself in the present moment usually. Or like a conscious present moment, I would say. And then, I don't know, the third one. Just following my joy, which is new for me. And I will say, whenever I meditate and think of my authentic self, I'm running through a field of like lavender flowers or like flowers in all white. It's very strange. But like that's like my version of my best self. It's very weird. But it's always flowers every time. I'm like, okay.
A field of flowers.
Yes, like a field. A beautiful field.
What is the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you?
It's not given to me directly, but I heard it, is to take back your power and stop playing small. Those are two things that really have resonated with me this year, because I know that a lot of us give away our power and we play small.
What is a book, a podcast, a movie, or any sort of resource that has inspired you and that you would recommend to listeners?
Can I do all of those?
Oh, yeah, by all means.
Podcast, okay, so I guess it's the same. I'm trying to think of podcasts. All right, well, I'm going to say Elizabeth April. I really love, she's on YouTube and she has a podcast, so I guess that can be combined, but she's very big on taking back your power and not playing small, but also aliens and the Matrix and everything that we're going through, the awakening and everything. So I love her, and she's very optimistic, so all the doomsday stuff, she has a good outlook on it, so it gives me hope for our humanity future. Well, my favorite movie is Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, cool.
I love that movie. I think that's just a good movie for anybody to watch, just to follow your joy is what she did. So whether it's being outside or traveling around the world for a year, which is what she did, but it's my favorite movie so much. I love it.
Do you have a book that you want to share? You mentioned Shaman Durek earlier.
I do like that one. My favorite book is, okay, so I have two. So I love self-healing. Reiki for self-healing has really helped me out a lot. And To Love and Let Go by Rachel Baratheon, which is the yoga girl. That I read that in a weekend. Like, that book is so good. So,
all right, let everyone know where they can find you online. Any Instagram, website, any of those handles.
So my podcast is at Dare You to Move _podcast_. And then my Reiki business Instagram, which I have, but I haven't posted yet, is Energy Magic with a K.
Ooh.
Not a C, just a K. You can add me, but I haven't posted anything. That will be like, I don't know when this is coming out. Maybe I'll have stuff by then, but yeah.
Cool. All right. So excited to see all that grow, the Reiki business for you. That's so exciting.
Exciting but nervous.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for coming on the Make It Happen podcast. It's been so fun chatting over all these different topics with you, and I feel like it's a new level of getting to know each other.
Yes, thank you. I thank you for dealing with my craziness, I guess.
Wasn't that such an awesome conversation? It was kind of all over the place. Even though we're also using the frame of things that we've learned in our 20s, there's not really any one way or one time to go through these experiences. I think we all are where we're meant to be at this time. So we're all learning and knowing at this moment what we are meant to know at this time. It's like information is ready and ever available for us whenever we are willing to seek it out. If you are in your 20s, what feels like an area to explore and grow for you? If you are beyond your 20s, then what are some big takeaways that you've had during this period of your life? I'd really love to hear it. Of course, I love hearing anything you would like to share. You can head over to Instagram and leave a comment there or on the Facebook page. You can also, head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review for the show. I mean, you can leave other star ratings too, but 5 is recommended. So go ahead and do that if you liked this episode and want to help other people find the show by leaving a review. I'm always happy to hear what you guys think, so keep the feedback coming. Lastly, before I sign off, I want to give a quick shout out to my friend and production assistant, Israel Rodriguez. Israel actually came out on the podcast way back in season 1. He's a Virgo, he's ultra insightful, and he's also been helping me lately with the audio this season. While his expertise is in music production, I'm super thankful for him helping me out with the Make It Happen podcast, so thank you, Israel. Okay, that's it. I think that's all I wanted to share with you guys at this time, so remember to check the links in the show notes to connect with myself or Colleen or get more info about anything that was referenced in today's episode. Thanks again for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye!